إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى أهله ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. We give praise and thanks to Almighty Allah. We ask Him to shower His blessings upon the noblest of mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all His companions, the members of His household, and all those who follow His footsteps to the day of Qiyamah. Alhamdulillah, we are still in Kitaab Al-Salaat. We started with in Kitaab Al-Salaat with the salawat that we observe every day, different aspects of them. Then we went from that to the salawat that we observe every week. Then we, that is the way the scholars structured their books of fiqh. This one also. And we went from there to, we wanted to go to the salah that we will observe every month, but we don't have. So we went from there to the salah that we observe every year, once a year, and that is Salatul Eid. Whether it is Eid al-Adha or Eid al-Fitr, before that, we observe them once every year. So this is what the bab that we are in right now. Inshallah, this will be the last hadith that will be taken today under the bab of Salatul Eid, Bab Salatul Eid. Then we'll go to a salah that is not one that we observe every year, but it is something that is born not out of time, but born out of need or occasion. So if the need occurs frequently, we observe it frequently. If the need does not exist, we don't observe it. So it is tied to a need or an event or an occurrence. So there are a number of salawat like that. There are a number of salawat like that. One of them is like the salat that we observe today, Salatul Istisqa. It is occasioned by drought or cessation of rain. So when we need the rain, we observe it. If we do not need the rain, then there's no need to observe it. One of the salah that is also born out of occasion is janaza. We only observe it when people die. If people do not die, then there's no janaza. Salatul Kusuf, likewise, when there's an eclipse. If there's no eclipse, we don't observe it. If there is an eclipse, we'll observe it. So inshallah, we'll end Salatul Eid today with the hadith of Atiyah. The hadith of Atiyah. Her name, that is a kunya, her nickname, a laqab, or a kunya. Now, kunya is different from laqab. Kunya is usually either the father of, the mother of, or the son of. So for instance, you say Ibn Umar, you're talking of AbduLlaah Ibn Umar, that is his kunya, or Abu Abdullah. So that is the father of Abdullah. But laqab is a nickname. So if you say Abu Hir, for instance, then that is a nickname of another nickname actually, because Abu Huraira, the father of a kitten, is not his real name. His real name is Abdul-Rahmaan. So Aish, the Prophet ﷺ used to call Aisha radiallahu anha, Ummi Abdullah was a kunya, and her laqab Aish. So Atiyah, her real name is Nusayba, or Nusayba, was Nusayba al-Ansariya. She was from the Ansar tribe of the of the people of Medina. The people of Medina, the Aus and the Khazraj, were the Arab tribes in Medina. You also had the Jews that live there, Banu Khurayza, Banu Nadir, Banu Qaynuqa, and other Jewish tribes that lived in Medina. But the Arabs, they were split into two, the Aus and the Khazraj. Together, they called the Ansar from Nasara to help. They helped the deen when it was in its cradle, when it came to Medina. And Allah used them to help the deen, and he thrived. And from the location in Medina, the entirety of the Arabian Peninsula and then beyond was conquered or was brought into the fold of Islam. So she's the narrator of this hadith, radiyallahu anha. Qalat, she said, Amarana, we were commanded, or rather, he commanded us. Who is the one that commanded her? Ta'ni, she meant An-Nabiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the messenger of Allah, the prophet of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, this statement over here is a focal word there, amarana, with respect to the ikhtilaf of the scholars that we will explain, inshallah, subsequently. We were commanded. We've told us severally that the scholars say when a higher authority is telling a lower, someone of a lower status to do something, that is amr, a command, and the basis is what? Is that it is wajib, it is compulsory. Meaning, if you do, you get rewarded. If you don't do, then you stand in line of punishment. So that is amr. Amr. However, there are some times where amr from a higher source to a lower source or to a lower being is not a command. Rather, it is an exhortation, an encouragement to do that thing. So when you are speaking with your peer, for instance, it is by default an exhortation. Say, please, or get that thing for me. Yes, the statement is get that thing for me, but he's your peer. The same thing if he's someone of a higher status than you. What is understood is that even though verbally it is a command, it is a plea. You are pleading with the person to do the thing. It is not a command, even though you have used the same word, but by default, because the person is your peer or something or someone of a higher status, it is not seen in many cultures, in fact, not just the Sharia, as it is not seen as a command. Rather, it is a plea. When it is from a higher source to a lower source, it is seen by default as a command. However, when there are other extraneous evidences or the circumstance surrounding that specific command shows that it is not a command, then it drops from the level of command to the level of a plea or an encouragement to do something. So we'll get to that shortly. Amarana, she said, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam commanded us that we should an nukhrija fil Eid al-Awatiq, that we should go out on the day of Eid. We should bring out on the day of Eid al-Awatiq. Al-Awatiq. Atik, Ain, Ta, and Qaf is a word that denotes. I've said a couple of times that the Arabic language is a conceptual language. It's each word denotes a context, so it can be used to have several meanings. each words don't usually have a specific meaning. They can have, they usually have a conceptual meaning that the specific meaning will now change from situation to situation. So the specific meaning will now change from situation to situation. For instance, in some hadith, the prophet, the narrators of the hadith will say, "Qala biyadihi kada wa kada." Qala means to say, but when you say "Qala biyadihi," he said with his hands. If you were to translate it literally, but that's not, the context. It's that he did. So the qala will now have in that context the meaning of he did. He did with his hands, so and so. Not that he said with his hand, so and so. So the concept of something going forth is what qala, means. And in this, when you use it for speech, it means the words are coming forth from your mouth. When you use it for the hand, it means actions are coming forth from the hand. So in this case also, atiq means where something grows out or emanates from. Atiq means where something grows out from or emanates from or somebody moves out from. So that is what atiq means. So ataqa, for instance, will mean free, could mean in a concept, freeing a slave. Why? Because you are moving him away from bondage to being a free person. The shoulder, where the base or the socket where the arm comes out from at the shoulder joint, that place is also called atiq. It is where the upper arm grows out, from. In this hadith, atiq means a girl who has just grown out from childhood to puberty. So perhaps has just seen her first menses. So she's said to be atiq. She's just grown out from childhood into adulthood. And also, atiq can also mean someone who grows from youth into old age also. So it's something growing out from a point or a place to another. Atiyya, she said, the Prophet ﷺ commanded us, "An nakhruja fil Eid," that we should bring out on the day of Eid, al-awatiq, the young, girls that have just attained puberty. The young girls that have just attained puberty. Wa dhawatul khudur, and the dhawatul khudur. Dhawatul khudur, khidr is singular, khudur is plural. And that refers to females who have already entered into puberty. They are not just new. They're just not. They're not new to adulthood, but they are not yet married. So these are the young ladies that are not yet married. Khidr, the singular, and the plural is khudur, refers to a curtain that is usually placed in the female section of the house, where, beyond which is access to the rooms or the place where the unmarried young girls will be in the house. So the Arabs have, that arrangement of their house where there's a section for the women, and a curtain will be, placed in the area of the women where the young virgin unmarried girls will be. So that's why they are called Dawat al-Khudr. Now, 1 second, please. Okay. Now,
Ustaz. Sorry, you have been disconnected about 6 times. Is it from my side or from your side? Do you know?
I've noticed that with not only you. Okay. I don't know what is happening. The connection here seems to be okay. About Alam. The connection here. I don't know why that is, but you're not the only one affected. Others have been coming in and going out. Please just keep logging in if you're logged out. Barakallahu. So, she said, that the Prophet ﷺ commanded them to go out with the awatiq and likewise the young unmarried ladies. Wa amara al-huyad, and she. So from this, before we go ahead, we'll see that she, radiallahu anha, was in essence telling us that the Prophet ﷺ asked every woman that is a baligh, that has attained puberty, to attend the Eid. That is what she was saying. So whether you have just, attained puberty, or you've attained puberty for a while and you are not married, or you are, married already, like Atiyah. He said the Prophet ﷺ commanded them. Who are the them now? The married women, and other, Muslims in the community, that they should do what? Bring out this group of people, especially who are not in the Arab, or not only Arab, actually, is actually the Muslim, society, where they are not used to being seen outside. They are usually indoors. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded them, وَقُرْ فِي بُيُوتِهِنَّ. So, and they stay in they're to stay in their houses. So when there's not a need to go out, the Muslim woman isn't seen outside. The Muslim woman isn't seen outside. وَلَا تَبَارُجْنَا تَبَارُجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى. And do not go out the way the Arabs in the day of ignorance will go out, where they'll be intermingling and everything like that. A lot of people are unmindful of this. A lot of people are unmindful of this. Even where the Muslims have awareness of the deen, and occasions bring them together, you see intermingling of the sexes and things like this. This is a fitna that Islam does not want to expose us to. Why? Because Islam makes extramarital affairs haram, and everything that will lead to it, Islam makes it prohibited, so that it will be easy for us, to not get involved in these extramarital affairs. And we know from the time we took Usul al-Fiqh that everything that leads to that which is wajib is also wajib. Not in and of itself, but because it leads to wajib. Everything that leads to that which is haram is also haram. Not because in and of itself it is haram, but because it leads to haram. So this is the same reason why looking at a woman that one is not married to, or one is not looking at her for the purpose of marrying, or seeing whether one should marry her. You're already interested in marrying, and you know that this person is said to be a candidate, and you now look for that purpose. Not that you go on the street and you're looking, you're not read for marriage and say, okay, maybe when I see the one I want, then I can now be thinking of marriage. No, that one is not what Islam is talking about. So this separation of the sexes is something that the people should, bring to mind. It is one of the things that the Sharia has access to. So Mu'atiyya is saying that these people that are not usually found outside of their homes, that the Prophet ﷺ said, bring them out. So it shows how important that occasion is. It shows how important that occasion is, such that even Jumu'ah, they are not asked to come out for Jumu'ah. They are not asked to come for Jumu'ah. The 5 daily prayers, they are not asked to come out for it. Praying in the corner of their houses is better for them than coming to the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ. And that being that, the Prophet ﷺ, along with Masjid al-Haram and Masjid al-Aqsa, are the 3 mosques wherein prayer in them is several times rewarded than praying elsewhere. Yet, for the Muslim woman, praying in her house is better for her than praying in the Prophet ﷺ's mosque. So it shows that despite this being the case, the Prophet ﷺ asked them to come out. And he tells us that this day is a very important day. Is a very important day for the Muslims. So when they come out like that, you've asked all of them to come, all of them have attained puberty, then definitely some of them will have their period around that time or at that time. So what did the Prophet ﷺ do? She said, she said, wa amara al-huyad. The Prophet ﷺ then commanded the huyad, those who the Prophet ﷺ commanded the those who are begun their menses, or who are doing their menses during that day, for them to abandon the musalla of the Muslims, for them not to be within the musalla of the Muslims. As we'll see, from this, it tells us that the mosque and the musalla have the same ruling, except where we have evidence to the contrary. So the default is that the mosque and the musalla have the same ruling. So the mosque is where you have an imam and the 5 daily prayers are observed. The 5 daily prayers observed, they have the mosque, and you have people who, pray regularly there. There are some places where people, maybe like a workers' mosque, so they only pray during working hours there. The structure is exactly the same as another mosque where people pray 5 daily prayers. So the structure is not what is important, but what is done there. The structure is not what is important, but what is done there. So the second mosque, where you have people, where you have a regular mosque, a regular imam, and you have 5 daily prayers being observed, there is a mosque. The other one is a musalla. So one of the popular differences between, the two is tahiyatul masjid. Tahiyatul masjid. The prayer, the 2 rakas that you observe to greet the mosque when you enter, a mosque. It is for a mosque, not a musalla. It is for a mosque, not a musalla. And that is one of the reasons why we don't, when we go to the Eid prayers, we don't do tahiyatul masjid. We just sit down, and pray and wait for the imam to start the prayer, and we'll start the prayer. Whereas in the masjid, the Prophet ﷺ said that إذا جاء أحدكم المسجد فلا يجلس حتى يركع ركعتين. If any one of you comes to the mosque, you should not sit until he has observed 2 rakats. So this is so one thing that joins both of them, the masjid and the musalla, is a woman staying there. The woman can pass through the mosque. She can, get something in the mosque and, move on. That is when she is in her period, that is a menstruating woman. A woman that is not menstruating woman, her staying in the mosque and that of a man is the same thing. So, but when she is in her menses, then she is not required to stay in the mosque. She can come in for a focused thing, get something from the mosque, and move on. So that what is feared of najasa from her period, getting to stain anything in the mosque will be removed, because no matter how careful a woman is, it still happens that the blood will overflow and it will stain one thing or the other. So in order to prevent that, she is told not to stay in the mosque. So she can't be in i'tikaf and all that. Allahu A'lam, there's different opinions among the scholars, even on this topic, because amongst the people of Sufa, people who used to sleep in the mosque, was a woman, and it was not recorded that she used to be asked to leave the mosque when she was in her period. So there's different opinions among the scholars with regards to this. Allahu A'lam. Just presented the evidences of both sides to us. Now, وأمر الخيد أن يعتزلن مصلى المسلمين. And he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, asked the women, since they will not be praying, since praying is prohibited for them while they are in their menses, he asked them not to be in the section where the Muslims will be praying, but rather they should be behind, them. So this hadith is in Al-Bukhari. These numbers 351, 971, all that, and also in Sahih Muslim 890. Wafi Lavdin, in another narration of the hadith, the Atiyah said, Kunna Nu'mar, because you have versions of the hadith, because the one who narrates a hadith will not narrate it just once, and that is one reason where there will be a difference. Another difference reason where there will be a difference is the sub-narrator, the one who hears from the direct narrator, might also narrate his understanding from what he heard. So this is permissible if the person is skilled to the extent that he'll be able to narrate using substitute words that will carry the same meaning as the original words that he heard or she heard, as the case may be. So in another narration of the hadith, it says, Kunna Nu'mar, we were commanded by who? Obviously, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and nakhruja yawm al-Eid, to come out or to bring out on the day of to come out on the day of Eid, hatta nukhrija al-bikr min khidriha, and the command was such that we will bring out the young ladies that just attained puberty, and those that have not gotten married, will bring them out from behind their curtains to the Eid ground. Wa hatta nukhrij al-huyad, and will also bring out even those who were on their menses to go to the Eid grounds on the day of Eid. فَيُكَبِّرْنَا, and those who all these women that have attained puberty, whether they were in their menses or not, once they are in the Eid grounds, يُكَبِّرْنَا, they will be saying the takbir, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, walillahil hamd. They will be chanting the takbir. Yukabbirna bi takbirihim. They will be doing takbir along with the other people that are not in their menses, the women that are not in their menses, and the men that are not obviously designed to do menses. Now, so فَيُكَبِّرْنَا بِتَكْبِيرِهِمْ. So they will be doing takbir along with the people. وَيَدْعُونَ بِدُعَائِهِمْ. And they will also be making dua with their dua. So we see in this that a woman being in menses, she is permitted to do everything that a woman who is not in menses is permitted to do, and likewise that a man is permitted to do, except where we have evidences. Except where we have evidences to separate, between them. So, for instance, holding the Quran, for instance, well, she can recite the Quran from memory. She can make dua, as we see here. She can do adhkar, as we see here. فَيُكَبِّرْنَا وَيَدْعُونَ. So they make dua, they do takbir. All of that is permissible. There's no difference between the woman who's menstruating and the woman who's not menstruating and the men in all of this. The only thing they will not do is observe salah. Salah is also not permissible for them. Outside of the Eid ground, also things like sawm, fasting, is also not permissible, for them. So where we have evidence, we will limit ourselves to where we have evidence. Where there's no evidence, they are all the same. وَيَدْعُونَ بِدُعَائِهِمْ وَيَرْجُونَ barakata dhalika al-yawm. And they will be hoping in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the barakah in that day. And barakah means good that is everlasting. Lasting good is what barakah means. So they are asking Allah for some good, and they are hoping that Allah will give them that good and will make it last. يَرْجُونَ barakata dhalika al-yawm. Wa tuhrata, and the cleanliness of that day, i.e., that day Allah will use it to cleanse them of their sins. So this is what Atiyah, the hadith of Atiyah, with respect to the day of Eid. So that hadith is also in Sahih al-Bukhari, this version of it, hadith number 971. Now, let's go to Tanbih and pick up one or two things. Now, Arawi, the narrator of this hadith, is Atiyah Nusayba bint al-Harith al-Ansariya, radiyallahu anha. This is Atiyah, her real name, Nusayba, the daughter of al-Harith. She was from the al-Ansari tribe. Min kibar nisa is-sahaba. She was one of the elderly women amongst the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rawat ani Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam iddata ahadith. She narrated from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a number of ahadith. Wa ghazzat ma'ahu sab'a ghazawat. She radiyallahu anha followed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to 7 battles that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam fought. So in the battle, not everybody engages in fighting. There will be people that will be in the medical corps. There will be people that will be responsible for cooking. There will be people, everything that will sustain the activities at that site. There will be different departments and people in those departments. So she wasn't engaged in actual fighting, but she was engaged in supportive activities. تَخْلُفُ الْغَزَاتِ فِي رِحَالِهِمْ. In the original text, this raw is missing, so I just added that. So she stayed with the people in their camp, the soldiers in their camp. Kama fi Sahih al-Muslim, just as is in Sahih al-Muslim. So I added that over here in the highlighted box, where where it was narrated from her and Hafsa bint Sirin, narrated from Atiyya al-Ansariya, qalat, he said, غزوت مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم 7 غزوات. I went to battle alongside the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم 7 times. أخلفهم في رحالهم. I stayed behind in their camps on the battle sites when the men went to the front line. فأصنع لهم طعام. I prepared their food. وأدوي الجرحى, and I treated the wounded. وأقوم على المريض, and I nursed the soldiers that became ill or fell ill during the battle. رضي الله عنها. So that is Atiyya. Mawd al-Hadith. What's the place of these hadith in the Sharia? It is Bayanu Hukmi Khuruj al-Nisa li Salat al-Eid. It explains to us the Sharia ruling on the going out of women to the Salat al-Eid. Is it permissible? Is it haram? Meaning, if they do, they'll be punished. If they don't, they'll be rewarded. Is going out makruh? Meaning, if they go, there's no problem, but if they stay at home, it is better for them and they'll be rewarded for that. Or is it mubah? Meaning, if they go or they don't go, there's no punishment, there's no reward. Or is it mustahab? Meaning, if they go, they'll get rewarded. If they don't go for the Eid prayers, there's no punishment. Or is it wajib? Meaning, if they go, they'll get rewarded. If they don't go, but instead sit at home, they'll be punished for that. Which one of these 5 rulings is it? This is the place of this hadith in the Sharia. The scholars have, different positions. Some say it is wajib. Some say, meaning that everybody, including men and women, nobody is allowed to stay at home on the day of Eid. Rather, they should go for the Eid. It is wajib, fardu ayn. It is compulsory on each person to go for the Eid prayers. Some of the scholars say no. It is fardu al-kifaya. It is compulsory not on the individual, but compulsory on the community. Once the community is able to provide an adequate number of people that will attend the Eid prayers, then the sin of not attending the Eid is lifted from the generality, from every other person. However, if nobody attends the Eid prayer, then the entire community will be sinful. The entire community will be sinful. So this is fard al-kifaya. Some of the scholars say, no, it is not wajib. It is not fard al-ayn. It is not fard al-kifaya. Rather, it is sunnatu al-mu'akkada. It is an emphasized sunnah. It is, meaning it is mustahab. So fard can be fard on the individual, and it can also be fard on the community. Like adhan, for instance. When it's time for salah, the Muslim community should, for each mosque, provide a muadhin. Once he calls the adhan, then the sin of not calling the adhan is lifted for everybody in the community. Everybody is not required to make the adhan. So that is fard al-kifaya. Some of the scholars say that going to the Eid is not fard al-ayn, it is not fard al-kifaya, it is sunnah al-mu'akkada. It is an emphasized sunnah, meaning it is mustahab, that is emphasized. Meaning if you do it, you get rewarded. If nobody does it, then it will be frowned upon, but there's no sin for it. While some of the scholars hold a 4th position and say it is just sunnah. Say it is just mustahab and it isn't emphasized. Allahu a'lam, as we'll try to show, that the strongest opinion seems to be that it is sunnah al-mu'akkada. That is sunnah al-mu'akkada, an emphasized sunnah that we're all encouraged to do. and not it will be unbecoming for the Muslim community not to observe the Eid on the day of Eid. Now, so let's go to Tayseer. The Sheikh Rahimahullah will bring ikhtilaf of the scholars on it, or rather, let us leave the ikhtilaf till later. Let's go to ma yukhadh min al-hadith. What are the things we pick from the hadith? What are the benefits that are extractable from the hadith? Number one, though I've said about four positions of the scholars, the positions of the scholars on this, Sheikh Al-Basaam, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen is of the position that it is wajib. Sheikh Al-Basaam is in between it being wajib and it's being sunnah al-mu'akkada. So let us have that at the back of our mind when we are reading the what we benefits that we get from there. Then after we finish with that, we'll go to the positions of the scholars of Islam on this, apart from these two great scholars. Barakallahu fikum. Number one benefit that we extract. وجوب الصلاة العيد حتى على النساء في ظاهر الحديث. Says apparently ظاهر الحديث. From this hadith, we get that it is compulsory for women to attend the Eid prayers, whether they're in their menses or not. على الشرط ألا يخرجن متبرجات, on the condition that they do not go to the Eid prayers, exposing their beauty and ornaments. And that is what sadly you'll find today when you go to the Eid ground, especially in back home and things like this, where you see the women will go with their the latest in fashion and all that too. Nobody's saying you shouldn't wear that when you're at home, but when you go to the Eid ground, cover it with your hijab and do not be a source of fitna for the other people that will be on the Eid grounds. So so they say it's compulsory for them to go to the Eid ground on the condition that they do not go out exposing their zina, mutabarijat, muqtirat, and they should also not perfume themselves for the same goal. The wurud al-nahi and that because of evidence that we have in the Sharia prohibiting a woman from using perfume when she's going out of the house. So when she's going out of the house, when she's within the house, she uses perfume. She dresses in whatever way she wants in front of her husband, and all that, no problem whatsoever. When she's going out of the house, then she's her ornaments and all that she's required to cover, and the perfume she's required to wash off. وَلَعَلَهُ مُسْتَحَابٌ فِي حَقِّهِمْ. So this is where I said Sheikh Al-Basaam is between wujub and mustahab. And he said perhaps the ruling is also that it is mustahab with respect to the women. وَيَكُونْ أَمْرُهُنْ. So therefore the amru, when Atiyya said Amarana Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that we were commanded by the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it will mean that that command is mustahab. فَيَكُونْ أَمْرُهُنَا مِنْ بَابِ الْحَضْ عَلَى فِعْلِ الْخَيْرِ. That it will mean that they were being encouraged to do that which is good. So his rahimahullah seems to be torn between it being wajib and it being mustahab. Rahimahullah. Number two, wujubu ijtinab al-ha'id al-masjida li'alla talutha, that it is compulsory for the menstruating woman not to be in the praying area of the musalla, so that for the reason that we said earlier on, so that the fear of any stain occurring will not be there. Number 3, Ana musalla al-Eid lahu hukmu al-masajid. Like we said, the musalla of Eid, the Eid prayer ground, has the same ruling on how we are to interact with it as the masjid will have, except, as we said, where we have evidence for like Tahiyatul Masjid and all that. Number 4, Ana al-Haid غير ممنوع من دعاء وذكر الله تعالى. We see from this hadith that a menstruating woman is not prohibited from making dua or doing dhikr, so, or reciting the Quran from memory, and all that, even reciting the Quran from her phone and things like this. There's no prohibition of that. Number 5, Fadlu Yawm al-Eid. We see the benefits and the merits rather of the day of Eid. Wa kawnuhu marjuwan li ijabati dua. And we see that it has a lot, so much benefit that the people look onto it as a day where dua is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in the hadith of Atiyah, we said that the women will be doing takbir along the takbir of the people, the menstruating women, they will be making dua along with the people as they're making dua, all of them together, all the Muslims together, looking onto, hoping in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will accept their dua. So that's wasima nida min al-ali al-a'la, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hear them, he being the most high. So these are benefits that Sheikh Al-Basaam, the next class will be on Takbir fil Eid. We're still on it. So let's go to Fawaid al-Hadith in Tanbih-ul-Afhaam. Number 1, Mashru'iyatu al-Khuruj al-Nisa. Mashru'iyatu Khuruj al-Nisa li-Salat al-Eid. We see that it is mashru', the Sheikh Rahimahullah said. Here he is sidestepping we will explain it in the second point. We're just saying mashru', that it is either at the level of wajib or mustahab for women to go for Salat al-Eid. Bisharti alla yakun ala al-wajhi bisharti an yakun dhalika ala wajhi tu'man bihi al-fitna bihin wa minhun fala yakhrujna mutatayyibat wala mutabarijat bizina. That, and this is on the same condition that we talked about, that they should go out in a manner that one would have a peace of mind that nothing will happen to them, and they will themselves not be a source of fitna to others. And they should not go out with perfume or exposing their bodies and their adornments. Number 2, wujub as-salat al-Eid. We see from here the Sheikh Rahimahullah says his position, he now clarifies it, that it is wajib. His position, Rahimahullah, is that it is wajib for one to observe the Salat al-Eid. Now, when the scholars hold this position, is it compulsory? If it's compulsory, is it compulsory on each person, or is it compulsory on the community? Once they can produce enough people, the sin is lifted off the people, or is it mustahab, sunnah al-mu'akkada, and all that? When they are saying this, they are not saying it for the purpose of somebody now say, okay, it's not compulsory, alhamdulillah, I'm going to stay at home. No, they are saying it so that the one who wants to go, or something or the other prevents him, will not, be depressed that is not able to go. So this is why they are saying, they're not saying that it's not compulsory. Today, when we look for the ruling of a thing, Is it compulsory or not compulsory? We are looking for the ruling of that thing so that if we are told it's not compulsory, alhamdulillah, one less thing to do, one less ibadah to do to Allah. You're not doing the ibadah to Allah without getting rewarded. Allah doesn't need our ibadah. He doesn't need it. This is Ghani Alim Alamin. Is doesn't need anything from us. We are the ones that will benefit from obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we see things of mustahab that are not compulsory but are meritorious for us to do, it is for us to do them. Then when we don't have the opportunity to do them, to not feel that we have committed a sin, but just inshallah, next time I'll be able to do it when the time comes again. Now, we see from the hadith, mashru'atu takbir fi musal al-eid wa al-jahr bih. We see that from this hadith, from Atiyah, as she said, yukabbirna bi takbirihin, that it is part of the Sharia for one to do the takbirat or the takbir when you are in the Eid grounds and for it to be audible. She wouldn't be saying that the women will be doing takbir along with the people as they're doing takbir. If the takbir were not audible, nobody will know what was being said. So it is, takbir is mashru', it is mustahab to say when one is on the Eid ground, and also to say it aloud. Number 4, jawazu takbir wa du'a lil haid. We said that du'a and takbir, afkar, are permissible for the menstruating women, just like it is for the men and the non-menstruating women. Number 5, marul haid min al-makth fi al-masjid, that staying in the mosque or the musalla is not permissible for a menstruating woman. So when she goes to the mosque or she can pass through the musalla, she can get something specific, time limited, done in the mosque, but staying there is what is not permissible, according to, as I said, some of the scholars. We talked about the other opinion that is permissible so long, but they are all united on something. Anybody that's going to come to the mosque, whether you are a menstruating woman or an incontinent man who has a disease that causes urine to continually come out from his body without it being regulated. So what you must make sure if you're going to be in the mosque is that najasa should not get to the mosque. So the woman who is in haid has the same ruling as a man who is incontinent, either fecal incontinence or urinary incontinence. Number 7, al-ihtimam bi kathrati al-hadirin lis-salat wal-du'a wa dhikr al-mashru'in. Now, we see that there is whenever the Sharia legislates that something like salah or dua or dhikr can be done in congregation, then there's importance paid to growing the number of people in that occasion that the Sharia has said we should do in Jama'ah. So when the topic of dhikr in Jama'ah, can we do dhikr in Jama'ah? Yes, we can do dhikr in Jama'ah. There's no problem with that. Once we find evidence for the dhikr that we're talking about. So for instance, you are in Hajj or Umrah and you are doing your adhkar, other people are doing their adhkar, or on the days of on the days of Eid, the days of Tashriq, you're doing your takbirat, as you're going on the streets or anything, like that. There's nothing stopping. They're saying that when you are doing your own dhikr, other people should keep quiet. No, all of you can do your dhikr independently. So what we don't have evidence for is people gather themselves. Somebody says, say Alhamdulillah 10 times, and people say Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Say Allahu Akbar 10 times. People say no. Everybody says his own, whatever dhikr he wants to say on his own. If it now coincides, not that you planned it, there's no problem with that whatsoever. Number 8. أن من طريقة النساء الصحابة تستر الأبكار ونهوهن في بيوت وعدم خروجهن. We see that it was the practice of the female companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and indeed the heads of the household, the men at that time, to make sure that the women, the young girls were inside, that people obeyed the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they should not go out except if there was a need, and they should not go out like in the days of Jahiliyyah. So there's difference between a Muslim woman and a non-Muslim woman. A non-Muslim woman will go to the club or go just to the mall to window shop or anything like that. But a Muslim woman only goes out for a purpose. She has work to do. She goes to that work, comes back home. She has she wants to go to the mosque, she goes, comes back home. She wants to go to the madrasa, she goes, comes back home. She wants to go to the market to buy specific thing, goes, come back. Not just wandering around, town and being a fitna to others and exposing herself to being a fitna, exposing herself to the fitna of others. So, okay, I guess this is what I saw when I said the next thing we'll do is Babu Salatul Kusuf. But in Tayseer, the next thing is Takbir of Eid. So inshallah, we'll take that Takbir of Eid before we move on to Salatul Kusuf. So inshallah, we'll end with the positions of the scholars on this topic. So the scholars have different opinion about the Salatul Eid. Is it compulsory or not? As we said. So let us look at their evidences and make up our own minds. We told us that Allahu A'lam, the most correct of the opinions that we think is based on the evidences is that Salatul Eid is Sunnah al-Mu'akkada, an emphasized mustahab. So let us go to the evidences of each, and we can make up our own minds as to which one we think or is most convincing from the evidences. Salatul Eid mashru'a bil ijma'. The scholars agree that Salatul Eid is part of the Sharia. There's no difference of opinion. واختلف أهل العلم في حكمها على ثلاثة أقوال. The scholars differ with respect to what we know is part of the Sharia. What is the specific ruling? That is where the scholars differ. قول الأول. The first position, أن صلاة العيد واجبة على الأعيان. The first position is that Salatul Eid is compulsory on every individual. On every individual. وهذا مذهب الحنفية, and this is the position of the Hanafi. Let's skip the scholars that, because of time, that hold that position, but we can see the scholars that hold the position here. It's also position of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, as we've seen. Sheikh Al-Basaam is in between, it being compulsory and it being mustahab. Sheikh Ibn Baz is of the opinion that it is compulsory too. Let us go to what their evidences are. Okay, those who say that it is compulsory. Those who say that it is compulsory say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kawthar, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ, and pray to your Lord and slaughter an animal. That is on the day of Eid al-Adha. So, wajhu dalala. Why do they use this evidence? They say that anna hadha al-amru min Allah wal amru yaqtadi al-wujub. They say this is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say fasalli, this is a command, and observe salah. And some of the mufassirun say that this verse was revealed with respect to Salat al-Eid. But there's no ijma among the scholars of tafsir that is the case. But those who hold this opinion, they use this understanding that this verse was revealed in respect of, or in respect to Salatul Eid. So they say that, therefore, this is a command. A command means you must do, except you find evidence to the contrary. So this is one evidence. Number two is hadith from Atiyah that we just learned about. In the beginning, we said this word, amarana. This word, amarana. So they are using it again, that we were commanded, is what Atiyah said. Amarana, we were commanded. So we said, fasalli li rabbika and amarana, both of them are commands from the Prophet ﷺ, meaning we must observe this salah. This is their position. So let us go to okay, that is one. Then two, they also use the same hadith of Atiyah to say that an al-amru bi khuruj nisa yaqtadi al-amru bi salah. They say that the Prophet ﷺ asked women, including those that are not menstruating, to come out to come out. And they're saying that going out is to an end. If going out is compulsory, then the salah that they are going to must also be compulsory, according to what we talked about the principle of fiqh. Ma la yatimu bihi al-wajib illa bihi fahuwa wajib. Ma la yatimu al-wajib illa bihi fahuwa wajib. Whatever needs to be present for wajib to be compulsory, it's itself wajib. For instance, wudu, ablution, in and of itself, it is not compulsory to perform ablution. But salat is compulsory. And you cannot observe salah. If you observe salat, we cannot observe salah without ablution. So if the time for salat arrives and you already have ablution, then ablution is not compulsory on you. It is mustahab. If you wish, you can do another ablution. But if it's time for salah and you don't have ablution, then in that case, ablution will be compulsory on you, because you need that ablution for something that is compulsory. So ablution will now become compulsory. Not that ablution was compulsory on its own before, but because you cannot do something which is compulsory except with the wudu, the ablution, then the ablution becomes compulsory in that case. So they're saying the women were asked to go out compulsorily. Then it must mean that what they were asked to go to is also compulsory. So this is the understanding that they extracted from this. The weakness of this is that the scholars who hold the position that is mustahab, they say the Prophet ﷺ would not have asked the women that are menstruating to go for salah, because even if they observe the salah, they would be, doing something that is haram. A menstruating woman, it is haram for her to observe salah. So what the Prophet ﷺ asked them to come out for, knowing that salat is haram for them, is to witness the people observing other, rights of the Eid, that they themselves are not going to witness. So this is the weakness in that it's not a necessity that because they've been asked to come out, if we say that is a command, that what they've been asked to come out for is also compulsory, because in that case, they didn't get to do that thing. Now, القول الثاني, the second position of the scholars in this on this topic is أنها سنة المؤكدة, that is an emphasized sunnah, and it is the position of the Maliki. The majority of the scholars hold this position. This is the position of the majority of the scholars. But as we said, our deen is not democracy. It's not a deen of how many people are holding this position. Rather, it is a deen of what is the evidence. So we go for the position that has the strongest evidence. If it is now the position of the majority, that is just an addition, an icing on the cake. The most important thing is the evidence. So what is the evidence of those who say that it is sunnah al-mu'akkada, mustahab, that is emphasized? They bring the hadith of Talha ibn Ubaydillah radiyallahu anhu. They said in the hadith, Talha radiyallahu anhu narrated that anna rajulan ja'a ila Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam yas'aluhu an al-Islam. Said a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, asking him about Islam. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told him different things about Islam. He wanted a concise thing about Islam. Each time the Prophet ﷺ talked about a thing, the Prophet ﷺ would tell him what was compulsory under that topic. Then the man would say, is there anything other than this, under this topic, that is also compulsory on me? The Prophet ﷺ said, no, except you want to do tatawu. Except you want to do tatawu, that is, you want to do mustaha. So the man, so the Prophet ﷺ will go from one topic to the other. On the topic of salah, the Prophet ﷺ said, khamsu salawat katabahunna Allahu ala ibadi. Said, on the topic of salah, there are 5 salats that are compulsory on you. Allah legislated them on his slave. The man asked him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hal alayya ghayruha? Is there any other salah that is compulsory on me apart from these 5? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, la illa an tatawwa, except you want to do tatawwa, you want to do nafila. Okay, but compulsory only 5. Compulsory only 5. Illa Allahu anni rasul. There's some things cut off there. Okay, now, so the man, after the Prophet ﷺ had explained every heading of Islam to him and the things that were compulsory on him, the man now swore by Allah that he will not do more than what is compulsory on him, that he will not decrease from them and he will not add to them. So the man went off. So this is one evidence from there. Of course, there is something that when you hold any evidence, you must also know the shortcomings of that evidence. Now, in this whatever, the Prophet ﷺ did not talk about Salatul Janaza, for instance. Salatul Janaza is fard on the community. The man was asking about fardu al-ain. What is compulsory on me? So if somebody were to say, okay, what about Salatul Janaza? Is it not compulsory? The man was talking about what's compulsory on him. So if somebody dies in the Muslim community, every single person in that community is not required to go and do Salatul Janaza. What is required is that the Muslims in that community get enough people to go and do the Janaza for the person, and the rest of the Muslims will have no sin. But if a Muslim dies, they are Muslim in that community, and nobody does Janaza, then every Muslim in that community will be sinful. So this man was asking about what is compulsory on him as an individual, as he said in the hadith. Another evidence that they use is that anna salat al-Eid, salatu mu'aqqata, la tushra laha iqama, wa lam tajibu ibtida'an bi shar'a ka salati istisqa wa kusuf. So they say another evidence that they use is that those that say that is Sunnah Mu'akkada is that Salatul Eid, just like Salatul Kusuf and Salatul Istisqa, there is no adhan and iqamah for them. That the compulsory salats have adhan and iqamah. But even though one holds this position that it is Sunnat Mu'akkada, the first evidence of this Arab that came to ask from the Prophet ﷺ what was compulsory for him is a stronger evidence than this second one. That there's no adhan and iqamah for his salah does not mean that that salah is not compulsory. Salatul Janaza, for instance, as we said, is compulsory when a Muslim dies, but there's no adhan and iqamah for it. But it's not compulsory on the individual, it's compulsory on the community. But nonetheless, it is compulsory. So the presence or absence of adhan and iqamah cannot be used as a strong evidence to support this position. So the strong thing, that this position rests on is that, yes, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْهَرْ is that. Some of the scholars say, scholars of Tayseer say that it is with respect to Salat al-Eid. No problem, even though there's no ijma of the scholars of Tafsir on that, but let us hold it. That does not mean that it is wajib, because we now have additional evidence where somebody came to the Prophet ﷺ and asked him what was compulsory on him. After the Prophet ﷺ told him what was compulsory on him, Salatul Eid was not there. The man asked, is there any other thing that is missing? The Prophet ﷺ said no, except you want tatawwa. Meaning any other thing anything that he didn't tell you is tatawwa for you as an individual. Qawl al-Thalith, the third position of the scholars is that it is just sunnah. And al-Eid, Salatul Eid, Fard al-Kifaya. Okay, that's the third position. That is Fard al-Kifaya. That is compulsory, but not on the individual, but rather on the community. If some Muslims observe it, then the sin is lifted from the other people. And they use the same evidence as those who say that it is Fardu Ain used. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. And pray and slaughter for your Lord. So they say that is with respect to Salatul Eid. So they say that it is an amr, a command, and therefore the base of the command is that it should be carried out. Now, so what the strongest evidence for all of them to round up is the hadith of Talha ibn Ubaydullah about the Arab that came to the Prophet ﷺ. The full hadith is here. Said, Ja'a rajulun ila Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam min ahli Najd. Said, a man came to the Prophet ﷺ from the people of Najd in present-day Saudi Arabia. Tha'ir ras, his hair was, unkempt. Tasma'a dawi sawtihi wala nafqahu fa yaqul hatta nada min Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He was saying something. Nasma dawiya sawtihi wala nafqahu ma yaqul. We heard him saying something, but we didn't know exactly what he was saying as he was coming to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hatta dana min Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, until he came close to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Fa idha huwa yas'alu anil Islam. Then when he got close, we now heard what he was saying. He was asking about Islam. Asking the Prophet ﷺ about Islam. فَقَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. The Prophet ﷺ told him, خَمْسُ الصَّلَوَاتِ فِي الْيَوْمِ وَاللَّيْلِ. Said, 5 prayers they are going to say every day to be spread between day and night. that is from Fajr to Isha at night. فَقَالَ هَلْ عَلَيَّ غَيْرٌ Is there any other thing that is compulsory on me apart from them? قَالَ لَا إِلَّا أَن تَطَوَّعَ There's nothing on you except if you want to do tatawwu. وَصِيَامُ شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ Also talking about the fasting of Shahr Ramadan. فَقَالَ هَلْ عَلَيَّ غَيْرُ Is there another thing compulsory on me apart from the fasting of Ramadan? قَالَ لَا إِلَّا أَن تَطَوَّعَ So again, one must know that if there are extraneous evidences, like for instance, somebody who does something that requires kafara, like somebody who does something that requires kafara or fasting for 2 consecutive months by missing out on the day, breaking a fast during the day of Ramadan, then that kafara will be compulsory on him. But the Prophet ﷺ didn't say that here. Prophet ﷺ was saying something that was by default in Islam compulsory on an individual. Kafara is not by default compulsory on an individual. He will have to do something that will make it compulsory on him. فَقَالَ لَا إِلَّا أَن تَطَوَّعَ So the Prophet ﷺ said, apart from Sawm Ramadan, there's no other Sawm, fasting that is compulsory on him. وَذَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ الزَّكَاةَ فَقَالَ هَلْ عَلَيَّ غَيْرُهَا So he said, the Prophet ﷺ also told him about zakah. He asked, apart from zakah, is there any other, thing that is compulsory on my wealth? He said, no. إِلَّا أَن تَطَوَّعَ Except that you want to do tatawwu. قَالَ فَأَدْبَرَ الرَّجُلُ So the man now turned away. After the Prophet ﷺ told him everything. فَهُوَ يَقُولُ And as he was going, he was saying, وَاللَّهِ لَا أَزِيدُ عَلَى هَذَا وَلَا أَنْقُصْ مِنْهُ I will not increase upon what he has told me, and I will not decrease from it. فَقَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ أَفْلَى إِنْ صَدَقَ The Prophet ﷺ said he will succeed if he is truthful. And that is what we need to enter Al-Jannah is to do what Allah has made compulsory on us. So, and to leave what he has made prohibited us from doing. So once we do that, then, one will succeed. So that's what the Prophet ﷺ is saying here. And the Prophet ﷺ is also saying, Aflah in Sadaq, that if he is truthful, that he will do the things that that he will not go below what I have told him, then in reality it's just a matter of time. He will start increasing on it. If you are practicing the deen, you start, maybe you say, they told you come to Islam, let's tell the 5 daily prayers is what's compulsory. You start observing the 5 daily prayers. No nafila before, no nafila after. If you truly begin to feel the joy and the sweetness of the 5 daily prayers, nobody will ask you before you start doing the nafila. You do the 5 daily prayers, you make dua, Allah answers it. And you now see that each time you observe salah and you pray to Allah, Allah answers you. Nobody will ask you to do nafila. When you see anything that you do nafila, and when they remind you, but you said you are not, you say, that was then, don't worry. Now I've stepped up. So this is so this evidence is the strongest that says that the strongest position with regards to Salat al-Eid is the position that says that it is Sunnah al-Mu'akkada. So inshallah we'll stop here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.